Welcome to episode 172 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent and Jason here, and I think we've got a good one today.
I know we do.
And why is that?
We've got Prong. We've got Scream Red and Mutiny. Stanley's Revenge. We've got all kinds of stuff going on.
That's right.
You can't tell me it's not going to be a good one.
Right. Tommy Victor of Prong is the guest on this episode.
Yes.
Very glad to be able to say that. I didn't lead with whose podcast is this anyway, like I planned, but There you go. I said it now.
Well, now we know.
It doesn't really flow when you say it out loud. It looks better when you write it down. But
yes, anyway. Exactly. And it was kind of a last minute thing that came together too.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool, you know?
Yeah. So glad we got to do that. Nice lengthy chat here with Tommy coming up here in just a bit.
Yes.
Before we do, we got to talk about a couple shows and play a couple songs. Before we get into all that stuff, we need to let you know that this episode is sponsored by DEB Concerts and Vitz Screen Printing. DEB Concerts is located here in Tulsa, and they bring tons of, what'd you say, 80s and 90s rock bands? I say 90s rock, but the early 90s. Because some of these bands, like Firehouse, didn't even debut till 90.
That's right.
They always get thrown into the 80s category. But back to what I'm trying to say here. DB Concerts brings in all this era of music that both of us freaking love.
Yes.
And we're always happy to get out there. Most of the shows are at the Ideal Ballroom, which is a fantastic venue. And they've got some great shows coming up. Striper is actually coming up in just about a week and a half. Mm-hmm. May 30th at the Ideal Ballroom. They've got Driver opening up for them.
Yes.
And then what do we got after that?
Steelheart.
That's right.
At Safari Joe's on July 26th.
Yeah. So get on Safari Joe's website, look into that, but that's also being brought to you by DEB Concerts. Then a couple days later, July 28th, Bisto Blanco is playing at the Ideal Ballroom with Driver and Down for Five.
And it's free.
Yeah, 100% free.
So you have to be there.
Yeah, think of that money you would spend on concert tickets. You can now spend on whiskey or beer.
Exactly.
Or a T-shirt.
Yes.
From Driver or Bisto Blanco or Down for Five. Chuck Garrick, Calico Cooper.
You got to be there.
Mike DiPetrillo.
Yeah, you got
Scott Squires. Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong at all. At all.
Right. Then a couple weeks after that, August 18th at the Ideal Ballroom, Faster Pussycat and Don Jameson.
Yes.
And that also features Dead Metal Society. We'll be talking about them here again in a minute.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, some great shows coming from DEB Concerts. They brought in tons of great bands in the past, and Doug said they've got more stuff coming, so be on the lookout for that.
That's right.
And what?
Follow them on the Streets Gone Wild Facebook page.
Yeah. Streets Gone Wild is where they update everything. So get on there, click on that, and like that. While you're on there, Facebook, look up Vitz Screen Printing as well. That's VITS. Follow them, like them. They do all kinds of T-shirts, hats, hoodies, and everything. We get our stuff done there. That's why we're talking about them. That's why we believe in them.
Damn right.
Yeah. We've got new shirts coming, actually. They're printing for us right now. And they'll be up on our website. But you need to go to their website. You can order stuff online. They'll help you design it if you don't have a design. All that great stuff. They do tons of bands in Oklahoma City, Tulsa area. They'll do it for anywhere. They can ship it to you. It's no problem.
Hell yeah.
So look them up, Vitz Screen Printing. We appreciate them and DEB for sponsoring these episodes. So just getting right into that. First song we want to play, as far as I know, I don't think this has been released yet.
Nice.
I should have verified that, but at the point when they sent it to me, he said it hadn't been released, and I don't think they put it out yet. But this is a brand new song from Stanley's Revenge called King Me.
Forward! Come with me. We'll live like kings. Forward, come with me. Forward, come with me. Forward, come with me. Come with me and live. Come with me and live. Let's set this on. Let's set this on. Get on your feet. Get on your feet. Don't be afraid. We'll live like kings. Let's set this on. Get on your forward. Come with me. Forward. Come with me. Forward. Come with me. Come with me and live.
King Me, brand new song from Stanley's Revenge out of Pryor, Oklahoma.
That's right. You heard it here first.
That's right.
Maybe?
I believe so.
Okay, good.
We're going to go with that.
Yeah, okay.
They can
Why not?
correct us if we're wrong, but
That's right.
I'm going
That's
to act
right.
like we're right.
Yeah, I mean, you can correct us. It's okay. We're humble guys.
Right. As far as I remember right, I remember seeing them say they were going to release their EP. It's going to be available at Rocklahoma. Speaking of Pryor, that's where Rocklahoma is. These guys are playing on Saturday at noon
Yes.
on the Axis stage. They're kicking that thing off. And as far as kicking a stage off, I mean, what do you think?
That's a perfect way to do it.
Yeah,
What did I say earlier? That song's a fire breather.
a fire breather.
Let me tell you.
Or as the kids these days would say, that's straight fire.
Yeah. Yes. It's, way to go, kids.
With the little 100 emblem.
Oh my God. Stanley's Revenge, I'm sorry. Trent's fucking this all up. You guys got a kick-ass song.
Yeah, it's just, like you say, another one of your terms, ball squasher.
Yes.
Straight up, all the way through.
Yeah. You know, it's brutal, but it's got like a hook. I mean, it's got a fucking hook. You know, the riffs are awesome. This is just a great song. And, you know, it's about time, you know, they got a band from Pryor,
That's true.
you know, to, play at Rocklahoma.
Yeah, throughout the years, there's been quite a few from Tulsa, but I don't know if there's been any from Pryor.
Well, it's about time.
Right. And no better representation than these guys. We've seen them live a couple times, and they're great, so you will not be disappointed. Like I said, the Saturday of Rocklahoma, which will be next Saturday, noon, on the Axis stage in that tent. So get over there, watch these guys before you head into the main gates. It'll be kick-ass, that's for sure.
That's right.
And we'll remind you of this next week on our next episode,
Of
because
course.
that's the final one before Rocklahoma.
That's right. Before it all goes down.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we'll mention it again later probably, but we got 9 from Dead Metal Society and Scott Squires from Down for 5 joining us to talk about past Rocklahomas, this Rocklahoma, and all that great stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yep. Well, speaking of new music, Screaming Red Mutiny has a brand new EP that's coming out tomorrow, actually. And tomorrow is also the day of their CD release in Tulsa, which we'll be at.
The Shrine.
That's right. And that is not just Screaming Red Mutiny. It also features Less Than Human and Dead Orchestra.
Nice. Get out of the way.
Yeah, that's one hell of a lineup.
Yeah, I mean, there will be murders.
Well, we
Just
mentioned,
of the stage, nothing else.
well, we mentioned
Don't want to get violent.
Less Than Human, so you've got to say, what is it, hide your daughters, lock up your cows?
Yes, lock up your cows. Or is it hide your cows? Oh, fuck, I forgot already.
No, I think you said lock up your cows.
Lock up your cows. I mean, really.
That's like my favorite line ever.
Well, you know,
That's what you do, right?
every now and then I get one right. You know, sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then. I get lucky. Whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like we said, this EP actually drops tomorrow. You can buy it at the show. I
You
believe
should buy it at the show.
Yeah, I believe you can buy it through their website. Get on Facebook, look up Screaming Red Mutiny, like them. Get on Facebook, follow Mugen Music, which is their label. Get on thethunderunderground.com, click on independent reviews, and Jason wrote a review about this earlier this week.
I did a shining review, as it should be, because this EP is fucking great.
Yeah, we're fortunate to get an advance copy. And
Yes.
also,
Thank you for that. Yes.
what about 3 weeks ago, we went to a listening party that
Yes.
Sprout and Tony hosted and got to hear this thing one time through then, but we got an early copy here this past week, so got to really listen to it.
Yeah,
So,
it's awesome.
as you said, I think the first thing you said was it's a sprawling opus.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, that's a good way to say it.
Succinct yet sprawling opus.
Yeah, the thing I mentioned, even hearing it the first time and now hearing it again, is like you've got 6 tracks. They all stand on their own as individuals,
hmm
but they all fit together perfectly well
Yes.
into their sound. And their sound is something you else mentioned in an interview. You know, it's changed slightly as it would because it's a different guitarist, but it still sounds like them.
I think so, yeah.
Even without just Sprout's vocals, it still has that same, it has that feel, but it's expanded to something different. Yeah.
Yes, they've really made a bridge from, their EP, their previous EP to this one. However, at the same time, they still sound like them. This is a good progression. I think they're doing the right things.
Yeah. And another thing that I've remembered since he told us, which was, man, I think it was like last June when we were at a show in Fort Smith, Tony told us that their heaviest stuff was yet to come.
Oh, yeah. And they weren't fucking around, were they?
That's right.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of Mouthpiece, which might be my favorite track. If I
Yes.
had to pick one, I'm not sure, but that thing's just balls out straight through, and then it jumps right into one of those melodic choruses
Yeah.
where Sprout's singing, and it expands it as well.
I know. Well, and I like how Contents Under Pressure is just kind of, a little kind of serious and stuff. And at the end, there's just like this insane outro that just, it strips the paint off the fucking walls.
Do you think that's an ode? That's the song title right there happening as you listen.
Exactly. I mean, it's, yeah, it builds.
Yeah. But they released Iron Disposition first, that was the first single. There's a video for it.
Mhm.
It's really cool. Got our friend Courtney in it.
Yes, definitely.
And so go check that out. And then the second thing they released was Air Raid Symphony.
Yeah.
And that thing kicks this off. And I think you mentioned that might be your favorite track.
Yeah, it's my favorite track. I mean, it's just it's a perfect way to start a record off. It kicks ass. I mean, that's cliche, but it fucking does. And
The opening riff, man,
yeah,
is just
I mean,
sick.
Sprout's fucking on point, so it's good stuff.
Yeah. And basically every song on here, another one we haven't mentioned, From Heart to Grave.
Yeah, that's
We
got a
both
great
loved.
solo. Fucking, that's a great song, man.
Like you mentioned, it's got a stomp to it. And someone, I can't remember who, but at that listening party mentioned that it had almost kind of a clutch feel, but a little bit heavier, which I can see that as well.
Yeah.
It's got that stompy groove.
hmm
But yeah, you've got 6 tracks here. Definitely worth your time. You've heard Iron Disposition on this podcast before, hopefully, and you're about to hear Air Raid Symphony. So let's just get into it right now.
Made me compromise.
Parade Symphony, brand new track from Scream Red Mutiny. That's the first song that kicks off this EP that you can find tomorrow. I'm pretty sure you can find it streaming as well.
Yeah.
Their other earlier stuff's on Spotify. But get on their website, purchase this thing. They've got t-shirts, all that great stuff as well. The Shrine, tomorrow night, which is May 18th.
Yes.
Is going to be Scream Red Mutiny with their CD release, along with Dead Orchestra out of Wichita and Less Than Human out of Tulsa.
Yes.
And all three of these are excellent bands. And you can't go wrong with this, that's for damn sure.
We will be there with our new Thunder Underground themed Swedish fish. We will be giving them away to everybody.
The candy?
Yes. I mean, it'll be like a pre-show snack.
That is amazing.
So, I mean, come early. Just kidding. None of that's going to happen ever. But it just sounded like something fun to say.
That's a good idea, though. I like that.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe it's something to look into.
All right.
Maybe I didn't make that idea up. That idea was out in the ether, out in space, and it just flowed through me.
That's right.
Onto you, and now you're really fucking thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
I love Swedish fish.
See, I don't.
Yeah.
I'd rather eat the corn out of my turds than that shit. But, to each his own.
That's right. Well, maybe one day we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know where we got off on that, but continue.
Right. Well, if you're in the Tulsa area, be sure and get out there. If not, check these guys out live this summer. They haven't announced dates yet, I don't think, but I saw them say that they're going to be on tour this summer at some point.
Definitely.
So be on the lookout for that. Follow them, Scream Red Mutiny, on Facebook. All right. Prong and Helmet
Get Back
came to the Shrine as well.
Yes.
In Tulsa this past weekend. First off, this tour, I'm surprised it came here.
Me too, I really am.
Not that I wouldn't think either of those bands would come here. It's just that usually when you get a really strong devil package like this, that's not, I mean, it's a decent length tour. It's probably got 20 dates or something. Mm-hmm. But still, Tulsa's not usually one of the stops on tours like that,
Yes, I know. We got lucky.
Yeah.
We really did.
So thanks to the Shrine for making this happen for sure.
Definitely. Thanks to those guys. And, it was kind of weird because, it was just one of those nights where, everybody was there and it was just one of those awesome packages. It was a Saturday night. So it was just like one of those awesome shows where just shit lined up.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Well, something I think I mentioned it when we talked to Tommy here in a minute, but that's not really a package I thought of before, but as soon as you hear it, well, that makes perfect sense.
Like,
I'm surprised that didn't happen 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been amazing.
And I mean, both these bands are from that, they're not really the exact same sound, but they're from that same subset of metal in the mid-90s that,
yes,
the COC and Monster Magnet and all these bands that had one or two songs on the radio or MTV. And
yes.
Man, think if you put those four bands together on a bill,
well, yeah,
I'd freaking lose my shit.
You remember fucking back when we were kids, it was Helmet and Sepultura and Ministry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how fucking diverse is that, but kind of all at the same time?
It works.
You know that if you're a Sepultura fan, you probably like Ministry, you probably like Helmet, and this is the same thing. If you like Prong, you probably like Helmet, vice versa. However, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean, I know this was the, I guess, fourth time I've seen Prong and third time for Helmet, I think.
Yeah. I've never seen Helmet before, and.
Yeah, you have.
No, I haven't.
You weren't at that Edge Fest? Faith No More and Helmet?
Fuck, were they there? Fuck, I have seen them.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. That was a long time ago. Where'd my fucking brain go?
It was 97.
Huh. Well.
When they were on the tour for Aftertaste, I believe. Yeah.
I'm glad we talked this through. That's insane. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, second time for Helmet. Anyways. I just thought, for me, I'm a bigger fan of Prong, and it was just, you're standing there 10 minutes before they go on, and you're like, they're gonna fucking play on this stage? I mean, it's gonna be right up in my fucking face.
Yeah.
This is insane. I was talking to our buddy David Campbell, and he was like, yeah, I haven't seen these guys since 1994 in Kane's Bar. And I was like, I was there. That's awesome. And
right.
friend Hillary, she turned around, she overheard us, she goes, I was at that fucking show. And then some guy that I didn't know for anybody overheard us, he goes, I was at that fucking show. So, I mean, that's just cool that, all these years later, people are still coming and it still, is important to us. I thought that was cool. That kind of goes back to a minute ago, talking about the vibe of the night,
Yeah.
But Prong came on and they killed it. Man, they were so good. It was so in your face, and that drummer was nuts. And, Tommy Victor was on point, and he's I think he's a way better guitar player than people give him credit for. Or maybe they do. I don't know. He just is never in the conversation.
Right.
We're talking about insane. He's more of a front man, songwriter, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, man, that was the best time I've ever seen Prong in my life. Out of the 4 times I've seen him or whatever, 3 times.
Yeah.
However, I mean, that was fucking great.
Maybe that's why Danzig keeps bringing him back.
Yeah.
Because he's good.
Does he still play for Danzig?
Yeah.
Okay. See,
as far as I know, on every tour, I mean, I don't think he doesn't do any recording or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, the last time we saw him was at the Ride for Dime benefit thing.
Yes.
And they were badass, but that was kind of overshadowed to me by the fact that I was seeing Corrosion and Conformity for the first time in like 13 years or something, or 12 years, whatever it had been.
Yep.
But when we saw him with Clutch in Fayetteville when they were touring for Carved in the Stone,
yeah,
that was phenomenal. And then, of course, Way Back was. But yeah, kind of like you said, this was the highlight of all those shows just because you're like 5 feet from them.
Yes, exactly.
On this small stage at the Shrine where, the sounds get in there. It's a great place. And the drummer Art, like you said, it's badass. He's been there now for the past 3 or 4 albums. And the bass player, Jason Christopher, just has, even though he's only been there a couple years now, he just has that look like he belongs in Prong,
Yeah.
And it's a metal power trio at its fucking finest.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's another thing. This was 3 dudes, and it sounded big.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard 0 Days, which is their newest album that came out in 2017, you got to. That was actually, we hadn't mentioned, that was on our top 17 of 2017 list that we did. So go back and find that episode and check that out. But
yeah, if you haven't listened to that CD, I don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right. Well, not just that. What we talk about in this interview is the mass amount of output they've had in the past 5 or 6 years, which was Carved in the Stone, Ruining Lives, X, No Absolutes, and then 0 Days, and then they also had the cover album in there. And all 4 of those original albums are hashtag all killer, no filler.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm not just saying that. These are all fucking great music. So it's just insane that they're just pumping out that much music at that high quality. When a lot of great bands, you get lucky if they do it every 2 years, maybe 3. Yep. Or if it's someone like, Metallica, it's every 8 years or whatever, Then Helmet, from your perspective as someone that didn't really follow them all that big, I mean, what'd you think?
They're all right. I mean, I kind of hung back, had a few more drinks. So, but I mean, it was good. I was kind of, kind of like in a way, like we've talked about Prong, is like his voice is just a little different, than it used to be.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you noticed that on the most recent album as well.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, that happens, time is time. That happens.
But it's not in a bad way. It sounds good.
No, And, I think they sounded great. I mean, they played all the songs you wanted them to, and they probably definitely played all the songs you wanted them to.
Yeah. And the other cool thing was towards the end of that set, he mentioned, we're going to play one more, and then he did that like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then he said, last night in San Antonio, we had a curfew, so our encore was 2 songs. He's like, there's not a curfew here, so what do you want to hear?
Yeah.
And he literally asked people in the crowd what they want to hear, like, for 2 or 3 songs. And I didn't look at the clock, but it had to have been close to probably a 2-hour set at that point.
Yeah.
Because their encore was like 5 or 6 songs.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they finished, well, not one finished, but in there they played Just Another Victim.
Yeah.
And, which, funny, we joked about it earlier, since Danny Boy's in Tulsa.
Yes, yeah.
But I saw the next day pictures of him outside of the Shrine.
Really?
With Helmet. So he was there hanging out, but he didn't get on stage.
What the hell?
But I don't know, what did he do in House Pain? He might not even sing.
Yeah,
so
I have no idea.
I don't think he sang That Was All.
Yeah.
Everlast, I don't know. So maybe that's why it wouldn't have mattered.
Wouldn't have worked. Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, I mean, like you said, they covered the span of their, the span of their career, played stuff from every album, it seemed like. And yeah, kick ass.
Great night.
Yeah. Two bands that perfectly fit together. And for those of you that don't follow either one of those bands, you got to do it.
Yes.
Because they've been around for 25, 30 years apiece, and they're still kicking ass. And it's cool to, hear that stuff that Tommy talked about with Josta, and then on this podcast, and then at the show.
Yeah.
Or Paige talked about at the show that Tommy kind of helped Helmet in the early days at CBGB's.
I know. Yeah, that's some history right there.
Yeah. Well, once again, LethonUnderground.com reviews, all the podcasts are up there, merch is up there, all that great stuff. Tons of previous episodes for you to check out. But I think we need to get into this episode now. It's Tommy Victor of Prong.
It's something I never thought of, but once I heard about it, it seemed like an obvious thing. So who approached who? Was it one of the bands?
I talked to Paige a long time ago about it, and then we sort of said, "Oh, we'll hang out in L.A. together," and we never did. And then I ran into him again. He goes, "Oh yeah, we got to do shows together." I'm like, "Okay, yeah." Then, just being the way we are, we never really made it happen. And then I was in Europe, and then he actually has a friend over there. And he goes, "Oh, we really want to do Prong shows." So then Then we got management involved, and that took like another 2 years before they figured it out. So it was.
So it's a long time to make.
Yeah, totally.
So have all the shows been killer so far?
Yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, they seem to be getting better and better. Like the more we're edging, when we hit Texas, it started getting more explosive. I don't know what Tulsa's going to be like, but it's sold out. So
yeah. That's got to be a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, it's a meaningful package. I mean, we started at the same place. It sort of splintered into sort of different areas, but it makes sense.
Right. Well, you've had 4 original albums in the past 5 years, so that's tons of output. Like, where does the drive for that come from?
I always have ideas. I mean, it just seems like I could write, like when I probably get off this thing, I'll be like getting on the computer and start putting riffs down, and then I'm like, something I see, I'll have a couple of lyrics, and then I know like I could write some songs out of that. So, it really doesn't really take that much, especially when you're touring a lot. Like then you get more inspired, and the kids want it. And our fans seem to want consistent records, and it's something that we never provided in the past. Where, I went away for a while, then the band broke up, and then then I was playing with Danzig. Sorry, Paige, come on.
Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were coming.
Hey.
And then, so it's like that was one of my commitments, was to put out consistent records over a period of time, because I felt that we didn't do that in a long time. So I want to continue doing that, and hopefully I can.
Are you constantly writing, or is it just kind of an on the road thing? Or
no, I don't really. I mean, sometimes I do on the road. It's more like if I'm out on a Danzig tour, and then I don't have to handle any business, and I don't really have to do anything but show up and play guitar. If we have an actual tour, so like during we had this record Rooting Lives, and there was a lot of Danzig touring that year. So I just go up and we had our own dressing room, and I go up there and I'd have my iPad and I just started writing stuff. Right? So on a Prong tour, I don't do that much writing because I'm handling a lot of stuff and running around and usually we're on a support bill and we don't have the facilities to do that much. So I mean, I'd rather go home and just stay in a room and work for a couple of hours, like watch a ball game, go to the pool, and then go to the gym, and then come back and work, and just do it that way, and then stay up really late, and write a bunch of lyrics, wake up, go for a walk or a hike, write more lyrics, then go back into playing guitar, programming drums, then working with the producer and putting ideas together. That's more like you have all the things you need there. On the road, I just have a guitar and an iPad, and that's it.
Stuff really comes to you late. I've noticed. I like that. Always does for me, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's like on the last record, considering what was going on. I mean, now I look at the news and I'm like, nothing's really happening in the last month or so. I mean, little things here and there, but that year, like 2016, 17. I mean, it was just like it seemed like there was just so much going on and a lot of controversies. So that was a lot. One of the sources for writing a bunch of lyrics, and then I don't have. It's not all one track minded like the lyrics on a Prong record. Then there's like personal stuff and books I'm reading and etc. They all sort of combine into what's going on the lyrics. So like now I may be hard pressed to come up with lyrics because I don't really. It seems like things exploded a little bit and now they're sort of it's back to the norms already. With everything. Or this may be my crazy, demented, delusional brain. So,
well, the last couple albums you co-produced with Chris Collier.
Yes.
Like this being your band, your vision. What's bringing in someone like that do to help the process?
Well, he's great on the technical side of things. Amazing. And I need a guy when doing cutting vocals to direct me too. So those are the main things, and then he contributes to writing too. I mean, he's an all around guy. So arrangements. I'm more of an arrangement guy. Like for some reason, I seem to be in that role. Like I after writing so many songs and working on so many records, like a lot of the arrangements I do. But he'll have an input on that. And then when it comes to the vision of what the record sounds like, we put our heads together and we come to agreements on that.
Well, how's that different than in the past when you just had a producer in there? Like, do you like working better when you're...
Well, I mean, like with the Terry Date records, which was Cleansing and Rude Awakening, it said produced by... I'm not sounding like I hope I don't sound like an egotist, but it's it said produced by Terry Date and Prong, so it was pretty much me. So I, except for Rude Awakening, that sort of was not. We had, after the success of Cleansing, we had so many people putting their 2 cents into that record, and I was like, I sort of abandoned my participation as producer in that record towards the end. I didn't like the way it came out. So, for Cleansing, I had a lot to do with Terry and designing what it was going to sound like, and anything from like discussing like what mics we were using and what the drums were going to sound like and what guitar amps to use and blah blah blah. I mean, like we came in there and I had everything to drop C. So then everything, a lot, but like half the songs, like Stop Your Finger, Stop Your Neck, and he was just like, I can't, how are you going to tune this low? I mean, now we deal with bands that are down with 8-string guitars down to like, I don't Z.
Yeah, the
so,
wires.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he was just like, I can't, I'm going, dude, it's gonna work. Trust me. And he's like, I don't know. I was just like, we're just going to suck all the low end out of the guitar, and, everything's going to be, we're going to get rid of those ugly frequencies, and we made it work, you know. But he didn't know how to handle something like that. So, but I mean, Terry was a great engineer, but like, and then he didn't really have any participation in where the vocals were going to be. I mean, he's not a singer, not a musician. That's why when coming back full force with Prong, I wanted to get like Steve Evitts producing the record, because he's done anybody from like Robert Smith, and then he did, you know, the Wonder Years, like, and then a bunch of emo bands, and he did Hate Breed records, and he did this wide range of stuff. So I was like, I need a guy that's going to make me better as a singer, and he's going to, like, you know, coach the hell out of me. So because I didn't have that before, it was always like, Tommy, you go do your vocal, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, like it was always that kind of thing. So, you know, and Collier's great with that too. He's like, it sounds weird, let's change this lyric or whatever. And, you know, somebody to really work together on the vocals, the guitars, everything together. So, you know, actually I think, you know, like Collier's more of a producer, in his hands are in everything more than like those old traditional producers. Like, you've heard stories about like Rick Rubin, like where, you know, he doesn't even show up to the records. He's like, he approves stuff, you know. And producers, it's a weird moniker, or like no one really knows what a producer really does, except maybe in the R&B world, where those guys really they do it all. You know, a producer will, you know, construct the beats, and, you know, probably much write all the songs, you know, and like, you know, the rapper or whoever's doing it will write the lyrics, but that's about it, really.
Well, it's good that, you know, you've got someone that's got the wherewithal to tell you yes or no, or...
I need that.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I mean, you know, I've made so many mistakes in my career and so many poor decisions that, like, I'm still, you know, I gotta ask other people, like, what's going on. Like, you know, like band guys, like Art, I trust a lot. Like, dude, you know, what do you think of this? And, you know, usually he says he's negative about it, but it's like, but it's like, you know, and then Jason too, they're always like, that sucks, or whatever. So, but I trust them, you know, like, so, you know, we play a lot of, like, you know, I can't run this thing myself, you know, like, you know, it's just too much.
Well, you mentioned your voice and Steve Evitts, and one of my questions was, you've noticed over the last few albums how, you know, from a fan's perspective, I noticed it sounds even better than ever. So do you attribute that to working with Steve, or is this
It has a
something
lot to do with Steve. A lot. You know, I give him, you know, the only thing I did on that was getting him, because I was like, you know what, this is like, we have to do something, because, you know, I'm just listening to records and seeing where things are going. You know, they like, you know, vocalists are getting better and more versatile. And the thing that was great about Steve, like and which made it rock too and hardcore, which is that he believes in very little like digital processing on anything, which means like auto-tune. And he's like, you gotta sing this the way, you know, you gotta sing this stuff. We're not fooling around with, you know, with any kind of processing to put it into tune, or which is that, if you don't know what Melodyne or auto-tune tune is, like, you know, 99.7% of all the records, or a singer goes in and does like one take, and then they just line it up on a grid to fit melodically into something. They don't really do vocals anymore. So, and he didn't allow that. He was just like, you know, you're going to have to do this. So, and that's the unfortunate thing about rock music. I mean, like, you know, you go back to the old records, everyone played everything, everyone sang everything, the drummers played everything, and we got it right, you know, like it was a little sloppy here and there, but like that's the way it was. Like nowadays, it's like, you know, you're just mailing it into a computer, and the computer will make the record for you pretty much if you want it to. It's getting worse every day. I mean, now it's like with guitars now it's amazing what you know. I haven't experimented with it, but I mean, like there's, you know, a lot of guitars could be completely programmed to where it sounds like they're playing it. You would never know. And like, you know, I could tell a little bit, like the Bring Me the Horizon records. Like, I mean, there's really no nobody's playing anything on those records, and no one's singing anything either. It's all done by the producer.
Well, once this tour or touring this year ends, are you going to head right back, knock out another album? Is that the plan?
Well, there's a couple options for some more touring. I mean, we have to go to Europe, so I got to do that. During the last time off, I wrote like, I don't know, about 8 songs. I got to see what they're like. I played a couple for Chris, and he was like, I didn't get a really great response from him. So probably out of that batch, maybe one song will be used. That's how it gets now. It's like, I don't want to, but that's kind of. I mean, that's the thing about Prong too. Is like, like in the last record, and I get a lot of compliments about that. It's like every song is strong. Like, like we don't fool around. It's like, there's no filler in it. And I just got into that mode where, like if something's just not, we don't all like it, it just goes in the garbage can. So that's why I started the process earlier, and like just started writing, and now I gotta put it on the shelf, listen to it, see what's going on, and then write new stuff, and then hopefully put out a couple of singles, and then like a full record, maybe March next year, if the material's there. So it's all pending on that. Like even on 0 Days, I was kind of panicked, like because we had like this blocked time because we were going out on tour, and then I was like, I even called my manager up a couple of times. I'm like, dude, like this is just a fucking nightmare. Like I just went into that manic, crazed, fucking paranoid mode where I was just didn't know what the fuck was going to happen, and I was like, this thing isn't happening, and I called Chris and I go, how are we going to make this work in like 2 weeks? And somehow we did it, so it's, you never know. I mean, that it could have went the other way where I'm going, you know what, this record's not going to come out on time. So it's all God's will or something, It's like, who the hell knows?
Well, with the lineup changes and this and that, I mean, do you still find a way to make it all consistent and have everybody on the same page?
That's kind of a problem. It's like it's that if we didn't have Art Cruz around, things would be a lot different. It was like the drummer is a really important factor in this whole thing, and if you have ideas and you don't have a drummer that can play the stuff, I mean, it's just not. But I don't have that problem now, so I'm blessed. I'm lucky, It's like, so it's really down to that, It's like so. I got lucky with Alexi, who's on Part of Stone, and he was amazing too. Like he was a fantastic drummer. So it was like I got lucky with that. Because I had a guy like was a great dude, but like could not do what we're doing now.
Next year will be 25 years since Cleansing. Can we expect anything like re-release or a tour, anything like that?
Well, we're jumping the gun a little bit because the vinyl is being re-released, and I heard it's coming out in June.
Oh, okay.
And it's on Century Media, so that's been on the plan for a while. So it's remastered though. And remastered Cleansing on vinyl through Century Media Sony now. So, and then, at one point or another, all those Cleansing songs were played live, so I don't see why we can't go in and do the whole record live. So that may happen.
Is that something you've done before with any?
Yeah, we Beg to Differ. The problem we had with Beg to Differ was the Beg to Differ. It was just in Europe, and it was it was a mess because the booking agent it was like Prong plays all of Beg to Differ, and we had a British booking agent, and he really didn't relay that to the rest of the continental European people. So and then we had a bass player. Jason could not do the tour at the last minute. So we had to scramble to find somebody to do it. And that was a nightmare. But regardless of that, it was advertised in like the 6 British shows, and we played the Beg to Differ record completely, and that was fine. Then we had to go to the continent. People were like, why are you just playing the Beg to Differ record? It was never advertised as that. Yeah. So they fucked the whole thing up. And it was stupid. So that was a big mess. But that was the only time we did it. We did it start to finish, the Beg to Differ record, in E. Like it is on the record.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah, I mean, going back to
that
playing
had to be,
E
yeah.
was retarded.
Probably wanted to at least turn it down a half a step.
No, we did it in E. And, in some ways it was almost easier to play it in that old tuning. It was like, that's why a lot of thrash bands like Power Trip, like now these guys like playing with like E flat or E, and I'm like, now it sounds, when you go see them, it sounds heavier than these other bands that are tuned down, because you don't even know what the hell's going on down that low.
Yeah, it's like, wow, look at this.
Exactly.
E. Exactly.
Yeah, and it sounds heavier.
Yep.
I mean, Slayer never had a problem being heavier in E flat. Yeah. So, but I mean, these bands keep going down lower, and I'm not. I mean, drop C is fine. I mean, but we did experiment. In some ways, it works. Like on the last, like Self-Righteous Indignation, which is on 0 Days, is in that deathcore drop A tuning with the 7th string. So within Belief System on No Absolutes, I mean, every record we seem to be wanting to do that. And like Ice Runs Through My Veins is on in I'm gonna say it's B with an 8 string, but you can't really tell. It's not the kind of song that's like it doesn't have a breakdown or anything in it. It's just a rock and roll song.
Yeah.
So
that was a lot more melodic than your typical stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I have to shout out to Erie Locke. He's another guy that has contributed to writing with Prong. And I don't know who the hell he's playing with right now, but he's a songwriter, dude, friend of mine. And he's amazing. And he's like a piano player, a keyboard guy. So I was like, I wanted to have some more real songs. So he like threw me a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, we took them and we made them into these other things. But like the essential song is like a piano player writes in a whole other way. Like they don't think about riffs; they just think about melodies. So that's a good combination. I wish it, like we would have had them around years ago, because that's the kind of music I really wanted to do for a long time. Was like these real rock songs that were sort of industrial and heavy at the same time. But like sort of like Killing Joke, but heavier. And I think we've done them on the last, slew of Prong records, but like no one's really picked up on them. Most people want to hear the thrashers, the heavy shit. Like this song, the first song on 0 Days, we play it tonight. I mean that's becoming one of the staples now already. It's however it may end, and like that was the first song after touring with Obituary. When I got off the tour, that was like the first song I wrote. Like I just got in I'm not going to take a week off. I'm going to go right back into writing, and I came up with that thing. So, it was from playing with those guys that I said I got to do something that's fucking heavy.
Right.
Those guys are heavy.
Yeah, man, that's crazy right out of the gate. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, something that we felt we needed to do. I think that the next record is going to be like that. Where maybe even more of that, just like ugly and just fucking pissed off and just like aggravated, like just, like that seems to be what essentially Prong is, It's like it's not really too happy or something. But not being like this. I mean, look, don't take it wrong. I go on Spotify. I listen to all the deathcore bands and like fucking, All Shall Perish. I like those guys a lot, and but it's like there's a lot of other bands that it just seems forced or it's not real or something. So, we're concerned with that. Like, I don't want to be too unauthentic,
I heard that podcast you did with Josta, and you were talking about CBGBs. You're a sound guy. Just like curious, like who was the best people to work with? Was it the punk bands or the metal bands or even the alternative bands?
It's a fantastic question. I love it. None of the above.
Okay.
That's why it's a good question.
I was in hell all the time working at that club, but it was worth it. It was a boot camp for me. I've made a lot of friends and I made a lot of enemies there. It was because you'd have to understand what I was doing back then. It was like I was working the matinees, which was just chaos. I mean, it was just it was just absolute mania every weekend. And then I do audition nights, and I had to approve the bands. That's how I met LePage when Helmet came in. I mean, that was a no-brainer. I mean, it was just like passed already. They were playing like a Friday night headlining gig, and then during the week we'd have all these showcases. I mean, back then bands were getting signed to major labels, so I'd have to deal with managers coming in and having these showcases for major labels, and I'd have to deal with their attitudes all the time. Like everyone thought that their band was going to be the next Blondie or whatever, so I'd have to deal with that a lot, and that's where it got. I would say like the worst out of everybody was probably the pop bands that really not many of them went anywhere. You're the only ones the only band that really I could really think about that really did anything after these slew of bands that got signed during that time. Apart from the metal, like the rock bands, like White Zombie, Helmet, even Circus of Power really didn't do that great. Raging Slab was a big deal, but they didn't really carry it on. I'm trying to think who else was big from that. I mean, obviously Helmet. There was so many bands that we thought were going to be like these big deals, and they never really went anywhere. And the only band that was a pop band that a band that were great guys and were really cool, but I didn't have to mix them. It was they had their own sound guy. It was Living Color. I mean, they just smoked all the place all the time. I mean, it was like they started playing there every Wednesday, and those were great guys. But there's a lot of bands. I'd be like these managers. Everyone took their big shots, and it was pretty. It was a crazy time. There's a lot going on back then.
Yeah.
I mean, from let's say like from '83 to '90 at CB's, it was like there was a lot of action. It was a lot of music and bands and just craziness. And the hardcore scene that's the golden years, I think, really, and I was like smack in the middle of that.
What years were you doing this? Was like mid
86 to 90.
Oh, okay, so it was while you already had Prong albums out?
Yes,
Yeah.
It was around the same. That happened by accident because I started working there, and Mike Kirkland was working the door, and I was working the door too. It was sort of like I would work the door, work the soundboard. You sort of had to be in like with the Crystal family, and I sort of was in a weird way. So that's why I sort of got in there, and I got lucky, So, like Hilly wouldn't just take people off the street to work there. So I don't know how Mike actually got in there. That's a good question. But he was like, I had a girlfriend. No, his girlfriend knew me from Queens, and like was like, Tommy plays. At that point, I sort of gave up. I was like, I'm not going to be in a band anymore. It's a waste of time, And he's like, you playing in a band? I was like, nah, I'm not doing shit. It's like, I want to be a sound guy, He's like, oh, well, I want to put a band together. And I'm like, and I was a bass player, and I was like, fuck it, we agreed on a lot of the music we liked. I'm like, yeah, maybe fun, And then it's like, well, we don't have a guitar player. Let's get this. We got this other guy. He was in this band Damage, and we got the Damage guitar player. We're gonna have 2 bass players. Mike is gonna sing, and then the guitar player was like, well, I don't want Mike singing all the songs. I mean, can you sing? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'll give it a shot. And then Denny, Mike was like, Denny's really not cutting it on guitar. Why don't you play guitar? So I was like, all right. So that's how Prong started. It was sort of like this half-assed, fucking stupid band that we put together. Okay, I gotta go in.
All right, man.
Yeah,
we appreciate your
thank
time.
you. Yeah,
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah,
appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Good way to end it. It's this half-assed, stupid band that I started.
There you go, Tommy Victor of Prong. Very glad to be able to have him on this podcast.
How great was that?
Yeah. Big thank you to Tom George of Tag Publicity and to Rob Jackson, the tour manager, for helping us out set that thing up. And of course, a huge thank you to Tommy Victor.
Definitely. That was a great conversation.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you got to see Living Color every Wednesday night?
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
You've
dude,
seen them twice in your life, but
I
if
know.
you could see them every Wednesday, you'd do it, right?
Yes, because they're one of my favorite bands and they're fucking amazing live. I would definitely see them every Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And be late to work the next morning every Thursday.
That's right.
And be unapologetic about it.
Of course. Well, if this is your first time listening, we appreciate it. We've got 171 previous episodes you could check out, and we've had on a ton of people that if you like Prong, you probably like bands like Crowbar, Battlecross, Death Angel, King, Megadeth.
Corrosion of Conformity.
Yeah.
Insight.
Overkill. Sid Falk, formerly of Overkill, was on this podcast. Tons of metal bands, tons of, if you like glam rock, Warrant, Europe, Firehouse, Trickster, Dokken, those kind of bands have been on here. If you like stoner rock, we've had on, like we said, the Doom side of things with Crowbar, and then we've had on King and Truck Fighters and The Sword. We've had on Shooter Jennings.
Hell yeah.
We've also had on, if you like the mainstream rock, we've had on guys from Saving Abel and Shinedown.
Seven Dust.
Yeah, definitely. Seven Dust, also we mentioned before, has a brand new album. Came
Yes.
out about a week ago, and it kicks ass.
Pretty good.
And we should be talking about that here in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Another good album that came out was Bad Wolves. Doc Coyle has been on this
Yes.
podcast as well. So yeah, just go back and look through that stuff. DeepDownUnderground.com. You can listen there. You can listen on Google Music, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud.com/Thunder-Underground. Wherever you do it, like the episode, leave a review, whatever it lets you do, comment, that kind of thing. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and hit us up on Patreon and become a patron.
Definitely.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's big or small. We'll use the money to buy Swedish fish.
The Swedish Fish. Yes, definitely. How would you not want to be a patron for that?
That's right. The
Right?
official Thunder Underground Swedish fish. If it's not that, it's official Thunder Underground corns out of Jason's turds. You
Oh my
don't want
God.
that.
Man, that took a dark turn there. No
I
pun
was just bringing
intended.
it back full circle for you.
Oh, thank you. I think.
We also had on guys from Black Star Riders and Saxon.
Yes.
I forget those because they're so recent.
Yes,
that
but
they're
hey,
not in my head of things to spout
it
off.
happened.
So yeah, those are both great interviews.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Megadeth.
You ever heard of Kiss?
I think I've heard it called. I
Okay.
think. You know, I don't know. Aren't they the guys that do Lick It Up?
Yeah.
Wasn't that like their first record or something?
That is.
Yeah. Okay.
Bruce Kulick sang it.
Gotcha. That's what I was gonna say.
Peter Criss wrote it.
Of course.
Mark St. John shit all over it.
Okay.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense. But
That was my "We're Reaching" voice.
right. All right, wrap it up. Is what you're saying. But no, coming up here in the next, like I said, this early next week, we're gonna have our Rocklahoma preview episode, which features Scott Squires of Down for Five and 9 of Dead Metal Society.
Yes.
Both of them are playing the D&B Processing retrospect stage. So we'll be talking about that, talking about past Rocklahomas, and of course we'll give our little preview as well. We've got an episode with Sean McCoy of Bobaflex coming up after that. And then we'll have a Rocklahoma review episode and a lot of other good things here to bring you here shortly.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. Until next time.
I heard of your thing before. This is...
Oh, yeah?
Good. Well, good.
You know what? I really am like a desperate dire straits for a t-shirt, so this is very opportune. Thank you, guys.
Thunder Underground, y'all.